Hello everyone, it's Dan the Video Ninja back again, and I've just spent the last 4 days checking out the E3 coverage that's been happening virtually since the weekend. There's been a lot of new trailers and coverage on new games slated to come out this year and next year, and across the entire event I've seen some cool trailers and promotions for some new games that are now on my radar to look out for. So here are 20 trailers for games shown at E3 2021 that I am most looking forward to playing. Before we begin, a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, some of these trailers are for M-rated games, so there could be some M-rated footage in the trailers. Do keep that in mind. And secondly, while none of the trailers and promotions made it onto my list specifically today, I feel that honorable mentions must go out to the Nintendo Direct event that was seen Tuesday afternoon. I know a lot of my friends were stoked to see a lot of the announcements featured in that event. I'll even admit that stuff like Metroid Dread and even that new WarioWare game did look very promising, not to mention what had to be one of the funniest trailer clips of the entire E3 event this year. That being said, since I'm not much of a Nintendo gamer these days, I figured I'd mention and give a sort of blanket congratulations to Nintendo for such a hype presentation. And now, on to my list. These are in no particular order, and of course, all these are just, again, trailers of games that I personally am looking forward to checking out the most in the months to come. First, we have LEGO Builder's Journey. I only saw a quick glimpse of this trailer, but looking at a LEGO game that isn't just a cheesy stud collecting IP cash grab, but instead a tiny little puzzler with fantastic looking animation and what looks like stellar ray tracing lighting. A quick glimpse was enough for me to add this to my wish list. Next was A Walk with Yaya, which looks like a wholesome little slice of life story game with a polished indie presentation about going on a quiet walk around the neighborhood with your grandmother. I don't know if this game will land, but I can't help but be fascinated by the concept alone. Another game from the Wholesome Direct event was A Little to the Left, which looks so simple and yet could prove to be a fun, short little distraction, and it appears to be a straightening simulator, so it's quote-unquote satisfying the game, essentially. Next up with Somerville, I started immediately getting Limbo and Inside vibes from the gameplay in this trailer, not to mention the unmistakable nods to traditional alien invasion stories like War of the Worlds, which I think would make an interesting setting for one of these left-to-right puzzle platformers. Next up, I saw a trailer for Replaced, and I couldn't believe how amazing the 2.5 HD pixel art and lighting looked in this Blade Runner-esque actioner. I have no idea how good this game will be to actually play, but it certainly was a treat to look at. Next, from Devolver Digital's insane presentation, this was a big one. Wizards with a Gun struck me as the best combination of games like Bastion and Don't Starve that I never knew I wanted. The soundtrack even sounded like it came straight out of one of Supermassive's games as well, and that title was just the icing on the cake. I've had my eye on this next one, 12 Minutes, for a while now. It's a Groundhog Day style time-looped puzzle game that involves solving a mystery in the same 12 minutes over and over. This one also comes backed up with some big-name Hollywood talent doing the voice acting, including James McAvoy and even Willem Dafoe. Signalis looked right up my alley almost immediately, with its PS1 era-inspired low-poly design and creeptastic anime techno-horror presentation. Took me all the way back to the feel of those early Resident Evil and Silent Hill games I remember playing in high school. More adventures in space as we chase down bounties in the hilariously aptly named They Always Run, or as I came to call it as I watched more and more of the trailer, Mark of the Mandalorian. I really can't get enough of these explorative 2D platformers that center around tiny protagonists marching from left to right across the screen, and it looks as though Far Changing Tides aims to deliver another stunning example of that kind of experience. Similarly, though more so than the others that I've previously mentioned, Silt really can't help but draw comparisons to the likes of Inside and Limbo, only this time it's all underwater, which in my opinion always serves to intensify whatever gaming atmosphere a setting like that shows up in. The gameplay in this next trailer looked like a bit of an isometric Enter the Gungeon, but the design all but screams Fallout, with a heavier emphasis, I think, on more of the horrific imagery. Not surprising at all with a name like Death Trash. In this next one, we're back into space with Citizen Sleeper, which looks to tell quite the expansive sci-fi adventure story using Yahtzee or Dicey Dungeon dice rolling gameplay. I'm always curious when I see this this gameplay mechanic show up in games, and this sounds like quite the mashup if you ask me. As much as I personally can never get enough of games like Little Nightmares or Limbo or Inside, not everyone is as into the spooky Nightmare Fuel side of those sort of games as I am. A Tale of Paper seems to be aiming for the same type of gameplay with more of a charming tale of magical mystery rather than terrors. I gotta have my Doom clones, I gotta have my old school throwback first-person shooters, and Project Warlock was such a fantastic old school throwback to that genre. Now we get a sequel that looks to toss in multiplayer as well, which is fantastic. There's even more shooting in this next one, though Severed Steel looks to me more like Super Hot than Doom. It seems to play around with slowed down and sped up time quite a lot, just like Super Hot did, and the action looks crazy and frantic as a result. Just what I'm looking for. So the twisted and amazing design minds that made Botanicula and Huchel so charming have taken a stab at a surreal horror experience in Happy Game. I could not be more on board for whatever nightmare fuel this game has in store for us. Next up is Fallen Aces, an FPS brawler that looks tough and nasty, but also polished with a visual design reminiscent of adult animated shows like Archer. It's nice to see the noir setting is not above getting its hands dirty with some bone-crunching up-close and personal action. Something a bit more serene now as we near the end of the list, Lifeslide looks to capture the charm and tranquility of that game company games like Flower, but with the cute conceit of piloting a paper airplane through its breathtaking scenery. And finally, there's Extra Galactica. I think this is a shmup, but it looks like it has a hodgepodge of other kinds of gameplay in it too. Doesn't matter, they played Scandroid during the trailer. That was enough to sell me on it. And that's about what I've got, folks. Like I said, I'm looking forward to all of these game titles, and we'll probably have streams of these games coming down the line when I get around to them, either on my Twitch channel or packaged together as playthrough videos or highlight videos here on this YouTube channel. So yeah, you know, like and subscribe and all that junk if you want to catch any of that. I'm Dan the Video Ninja. Catch you all on the flip side. Peace.